Jay-Z dropped his motion for sanctions against Tony Buzbee for naming him in the lawsuit with Diddy. In this motion that Jay-Z filed trying to get sanctions against Tony Buzbee for allegedly not investigating this Jane Doe's claims against him, it also would include getting this Jane Doe's lawsuit to be dismissed, but Jay-Z has recently dropped this. Alex Spiro wrote this letter to the judge and said that we write on behalf of defendant Sean Carter to respectfully request that Mr. Carter's motion for sanctions against Tony Buzbee under Rule 11 to be withdrawn at this time without prejudice. They go on to say that we have discussed this matter with the counsel for the plaintiff, which is Tony Buzbee, who consents to this submission and agrees for the withdrawal without prejudice. Jay-Z was not only trying to sanction Tony Buzbee with this motion, he was also trying to throw out this Jane Doe's whole complaint by using Rule 11. He wanted to dismiss this plaintiff's amended complaint and impose monetary sanctions against Anthony Busby and the Busby law firm. And Tony Buzbee responded hard to Jay-Z's motion to get sanctions against him and also dismiss this Jane Doe's lawsuit at the time. Tony Buzbee said that Jay-Z's motion to hit him with sanctions and dismiss this Jane Doe's lawsuit was an attempt to silence this plaintiff who alleges that 24 years ago when she was 13, she was SA'd by Diddy and Jay-Z. He lays out the facts that he actually did investigate this Jane Doe's claims, and so did another law firm that sent this Jane Doe to Tony Buzbee that was called the Ava Law Group. Tony Buzbee said when she was at the Ava Law intake process that she was interviewed by at least one or more possible attorneys. And this Jane Doe was sent to him by the Ava Law Group that 2 attorneys interviewed her and fact-checked various aspects of her complaint, and then they revised the complaint prior to its filing. Him and other attorneys at his firm engaged in further rigorous due diligence to investigate this Jane Doe's claims. The Busby Law firm efforts included, among other things, intensive interviews amounting to cross-examinations of this plaintiff by 3 to 5 attorneys, both alone and in teams, research, verification of numerous details in her account, and the Busby Law firm ran a background check on her and retained a retired police detective to research and confirm other aspects of her account. Tony Buzbee also alleged that Alex Spiro's allegations that there is no way that this Jane Doe watched the BMAs on a Jumbotron was not correct is wrong, because in fact there were allegedly Jumbotrons down the road in Times Square. Tony Buzbee also said that Alex Spiro trying to debunk that the plaintiff approached limousine drivers also wasn't correct. He says that Alex Spiro asserted that the limousines were cordoned off by police barricades and inaccessible to fans. But as it is plainly clear from the video and photos on which Carter's lawyer relied, the small limousine area at the entrance to the Radio City is not where limousines parked during the show, but rather is merely where they dropped off and picked up guests. Tony Buzbee also debunked Jay-Z's lawyer arguing that public property records confirmed that Diddy didn't even own a residence at that time that matched the Jane Doe's description of this house, pointing to property records for 40 Hedges Bank Drive in the East Hamptons, New York. And he said that this argument fails for 2 reasons. One, because the Jane Doe did not allege that the home that she was taken to was owned by Diddy. But in any event that Jay-Z's lawyers represent to the court that Combs did not own 40 Hedges Bank Drive in the 2000s is plainly false, because property records reveal that Diddy was first listed on the deed for 40 Hedges Bank Drive on March 13th of 1998. He included the property records of this too. And out of all of this information, Tony Buzbee was saying that Jay-Z's motion for sanctions and to dismiss this Jane Doe's lawsuit should be denied because he was allegedly trying to avoid discovery. He said this motion should be denied for the additional reason that Jay-Z's lawyers filed it plainly in an effort to avoid discovery and obeyed the clearly satisfied requirement under Rule 12. Rule 12 is basically saying every everybody has the right to a discovery, and then you basically figure out if you want to throw it out. After Jay-Z just dropped his motions to file sanctions against Tony Buzbee and dropped this Jane Doe's complaint under Rule 11, he filed a new motion to dismiss that contains the same allegations that he's already added previously. All of this has to do with the Gender Motivated Violence Act, and he is saying that this act was not retroactive and it didn't start until December 2000, but this Jane Doe is saying that the SA happened September of 2000. He is also claiming that this Jane Doe shouldn't have filed under the Gender Motivated Violence Act, that technically she would have had to file under the New York State's Child Victims Act, which is already expired. All of this is super crazy, and honestly, I am surprised that Jay-Z seems to be backing down from Tony Buzbee. But y'all let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments.